SoCal Prep Report. I'm Randy Rosenbloom, along with Tarek, Fattal of the Daily News. We have a jam-packed program for you. We have two great coaches as well that are going to join us. Casey Clausen from Alemany High School in Mission Hills, and Corey Walsh of #1 ranked San Pedro in the city section. Corey's in his first year. But Tarek, good to see you again.
Good evening, Randy. Always a pleasure. Another week of high school sports, and particularly another week of high school football.
I got a surprise for you.
Come on.
Guess what I got?
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to give it to me.
No. I got the gold card. We know that Eric Sondheimer got a gold card. I now can go to an LA City section sporting event for the rest of my life for free, and I can take a guest. This means if I want to go to a San Pedro football game and watch Walsh's team play, I can bring somebody.
You can bring me.
Well, maybe. I don't know if it'll be you, but I got the gold card.
That's pretty cool. I do have one question. Did you find out what's required to give those out? Because those are pretty neat.
I think athletic directors will get one after 28 years of service.
Wow.
And they don't give them out very often to the media. Both Eric Sondheimer and myself, I think, are the first in the city section to get them.
Very cool. Well, congratulations. That is cool.
It is cool. All right, speaking of cool, your predictions aren't very cool. You struggled on this air last week. You go, Jay Sierra, they're probably going to not stand up to this fine team, Sierra Canyon from the Valley. That wasn't the case. Xander Singh was the case, the quarterback out of Jay Sierra. He brought his team from behind.
They say that's why you play the game. If everything was up to predictions and analysis, no one would play the game. Credit to Jay Sierra. John Ellinghouse, a coach at Sierra Canyon, said it's a very well-coached team, a very athletic team, and a team that was improved from last year. Sierra Canyon beat them twice. So I kind of think Sierra Canyon, with a lot of returners, thought, okay, we got Jay Sierra's number, and Jay Sierra had other plans. So kudos to those guys. Either way, a very good matchup between two teams. Speaking
of a very good matchup, how about the game with Orange Lutheran and Gardena Serra? Serra had a big lead here. Olu came back. Their quarterback was brilliant. Got picked off early in the game, JT, but he threw a winning touchdown late. It was a terrific game, and it ended up being an Olu victory, showing some real class rallying from behind.
Look, when you get two programs together, it comes down to maybe either who has the ball last or who makes the biggest mistake. I mean, 27-26, that's a 1-point edge, obviously. So Orange Lutheran gets the win there. That game could have gone either way. That's one of those games where if they would have played 10 times, maybe it goes 5-5. But Gardena Serra is a very good team and a Mission League championship contending team.
What about this next score, 85-0? Centennial's great. Matt Logan's offense has always performed, but that's a complete mismatch. I don't know how a team could score 85 points with the running clock.
Yeah, I think that there's ways you can do it. Obviously, what comes to mind, and I don't. People go, oh, why do you bring it up? Well, it's so obvious, that 106-0 game between Inglewood and Morningside. And the thing with Corona Centennial, and this is what I would say, that score at halftime, if I'm not mistaken, was 71-0.
Right.
So when I see a final score of 85-0, I think the football staff is doing everything they possibly can to dial back that score. So if you're scoring 71 points in the first half and only 14 in the second, you're doing your best, and that's why I think they're not being criticized right now.
Good win for San Pedro, and again, we're going to talk to Corey Walsh. They got by St. Anthony. We'll talk to him about that game and other things, so we won't delve into that contest too much. Another game that was interesting to me was Narbonne winning. Narbonne is a team that's been rebuilding since they had some issues with eligibility and went on probation. 14-7 they get by Torrance, and Roosevelt, another city school that really looks good. I had heard some good things about Carson, but Roosevelt handled them easily. That's a program that's coming on. Remember, they beat a very good Garfield team last year in the East LA Classic.
To me, of those three scores, the San Pedro score counts the most. To me, I always feel like the city section teams that schedule southern section programs in their non-league, whether they be really good, not so good, but generally a southern section program is going to challenge you more than most city section programs. And I like to see San Pedro doing that because they're sharpening their tools for that city section postseason.
All right, it's time to turn to our first guest, Casey Clausen. He's been there just a couple years at Alemany and Mission Hills. Had a tough game against a very good team, Lone Peak, a team from out of state that is just terrific and gave his squad a difficult time. But I know Casey will get it turned around. Casey, welcome to the program.
How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
To have you aboard. I like you because you will say and give us your real opinion. You don't hold back. So I'm not going to talk about the Lone Peak game to start. I want Casey Clausen, undialed, to spell it out for me. What's going on in high school football now? What has changed over the years? Why is it difficult to be a high school football coach?
I think there's a lot of different things that's gone on in the last, I'd say, probably 6 to 8 years in regards to, I think, obviously kids looking for the best opportunity to play. Kids have always transferred, so we've always kind of been supportive of that. But I think if you kind of follow the college game and kind of see how the college has moved and shaped quite a bit in the last probably year, 2 years with the NIL, I think that's slowly trickling down into high school sports. And, wherever we've been at the prior high schools and obviously now at Alemany, our goal is to help kids any way we can, obviously spiritually, athletically, and academically. And the product on the field is Friday night just for the kids, and we try to do the best that we can to provide a positive experience for them. But those schools that have resources are definitely using them, and credit to those guys.
Casey, rough go against Lone Peak. I think the storyline for Alemany this year is you do have new faces in key spots. Talk about trying to get that team to gel and getting them to gel in a timely manner where you'll be more competitive come Mission League, because I know that's really important to you.
Yeah, no, as I told the boys before the season started, we scheduled quite a few really quality teams 2 years ago, and this is year two of the schedule, and we lost quite a few kids off of last year. And I think the first 3-4 games for us is really more about us and kind of finding out and figuring out what we can and can't do, both offensively, defensively, and special teams. And obviously tomorrow night's a big game against Lincoln. We have actually 2 weeks off. Then we go down to Mission Viejo, who I think's one of the top 5 teams in the state this year. A lot of guys coming back. So I think these first couple of games is more about us and really figuring out and fine-tuning what we do well, and obviously what we don't do well. And then obviously when Mission League comes about, put our best foot forward and just try to go out and compete to the best we can.
You're playing a brutal schedule. How do you keep it positive when you suffer a setback? I mean, it's easy to have fun when you win. It's not so easy when you lose. But you're playing some really good teams that'll make your team better later in the year. How do you keep it positive for your kids?
Biggest thing is just go out and compete and play the best that you can. A lot of times I told the kids, we're new. We're obviously learning a lot what these guys can do. We're young, fairly young. I played 4 freshmen, last year, and freshmen normally should not be playing against the caliber of teams that we're going up against. But credit to those guys, the best kids in our program play. And so a lot of it's just the experience, kind of getting their feet wet. And we had 2 guys, I think, returning out of 22 starters from last year. So again, just staying positive, learning from our mistakes. As long as kids go out and compete and do the best they can, that's all we can ask as a coach.
Casey, we know you're kind of a quarterback guru, man. You played the position yourself. You've had plenty under your tutelage as a coach. I'd kind of want to know, when you look at a high school quarterback, for example, when I look at a high school basketball player, I always kind of feel like the best ones can go both ways. They're good with their left and their right. Is there maybe something correlated to, like, what's a skill set you feel like a high school quarterback has to have in order to be successful at the high school level and try and get to that college level?
He's got to be able to make plays. I think the game's changed quite a bit with the speed. You got guys 6'5", 6'6", 285 coming off the edge that are faster than most quarterbacks. So the coach can dial up the perfect play, but every once in a while he's going to have to beat the defense with his legs. So I want a guy that's a dual threat guy that can obviously throw it and obviously make plays with his legs. But the biggest thing is you got to be able to handle adversity. The physical stuff to us is 25% of the game. 75% of the game is, yes, everybody loves you when you go out and throw 5 touchdowns, but that same crowd the following week, when you throw 3 picks in the first quarter, is booing you. How do you handle adversity? How do you handle things like that? Especially in today's game, where college coaches are now paying millions and millions of dollars to kids to go to college. You're pretty much hip to hip with that head coach, and he enjoys making his $8, $9, $10 million a year. In order for him to continue doing that, he needs to win games, and no matter what level you are at, the quarterback is the kingpin. You got a guy that can deliver the ball, run the show, offensively, you got a chance. And so I think those are some of the attributes that I think we look for, and I'm sure college guys is how do you handle adversity when things don't go your way.
Coach, first of all, the Clausen name's a big name. Jimmy Clausen, one of your brothers, played in the NFL, had a successful run. Rick's on your staff as a quarterback coach, and I know he does a lot of different duties for you. When I think of Rick, I think about offense because he's on your offensive side of the ball. Is it about offense more now? It used to be the old adage, defense wins championships, but now it seems like you almost have to outscore people. Is it about offense at the prep level?
I think the rules have kind of leaned more, to the offensive side. I mean, you can't even hit the guy anymore without a 15-yard penalty. So, football is a contact sport. It's a physical sport. But I think the rules of the game, for safety reasons, obviously the right, way has trickled down from NFL to college, now to high school, to where you have to be able to put points on the board. And I think the best offenses are the ones that are balanced, that can obviously run the football and be physical, control the clock when they want to, as well as have the explosive plays, on the outside. And that's kind of one of the things we've tried to focus on since coming over to Alemany is in order to compete with the best of the best, in the state, it starts up front, on both the offense and defensive lines.
I'm sure you're going to get it going. You have a great track record. Say hello to your brothers for me. Good luck against Lincoln. It won't be an easy game, but we know you will get it turned around at some point. And thanks for visiting with us tonight.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys, for having me.
That's Casey Clausen. Good guy, and he'll get it going there. It's not going to be easy. Alemany's had a great program over the years. You're going to have a little bit of dip, but again, they get players in the San Fernando Valley, and he'll get some wins later in the year, I would imagine.
There's no question. As long as I've been covering Casey, he had really good teams at Calabasas, and he's had great teams at Alemany. They won the Mission League last year, and then they got to the Division II final last year and just came up short. So plenty of talent, plenty of potential there. I would say the one thing I will say is that school's been having some hard time with enrollment and stuff.
Sure.
And I think that's going to hit your numbers. So they're just slowly kind of different vision there now with some different leadership, and good to see Casey Clausen still with it.
Before we get to Corey Walsh and talk about San Pedro football, we have a new feature for you. We're going to feature one game each week. It's Game Spotlight. And Tarek and I are going to take a little bit of break, relax, watch this, and you'll learn about these two schools going head to head. And that's our Game Spotlight, and you see the score from the key game from a week ago. All right, time to talk some city football. San Pedro, the Pirates, historically with a wonderful program. They were the runner-up in the Open Division last year in the LA City section, coached by Corey Miller. Well, Corey Miller's not the coach anymore. Corey Walsh is. And Corey Walsh got off to a great start here, Tarek. He beat a very good St. Anthony team a week ago. That's impressive.
Yeah, and what I alluded to earlier in the show is just talking about how most city section teams that do well don't just pile up their schedule with other city section opponents. They go out, they find tougher games, and he did that and won. So that's a promising sign.
He doesn't like this, but I don't see a lot of L's on his schedule. He's not playing an easy schedule either. He's got a good Southgate team this week. But San Pedro's really good. Corey, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Randy.
Always a pleasure. I didn't put too much pressure on you by saying I think you might go undefeated and win the city title, did I?
I think there's a lot of other teams in the city that might have something to say about that, but we have pretty high expectations. We're trying to get better every week, 1 week at a time.
The first game, and to me that's an impressive victory over St. Anthony. You beat them by double digits. You know, Raul Lara is their coach, and he has a great track record. What was great about the Pirates on opening night for you guys?
Our O-line played really well. We got a 3-year senior at running back, Roman Sanchez, who rushed for, one of the newspapers said 150 yards. I think they might have screwed up. Our stat guy yesterday calculated it all, and he had him at about 214 yards. So he had a really big night for us. We were breaking in a new quarterback, and he was able to manage the game really well. So that was something really exciting to me. We're actually going to go with a 2-quarterback system, but one of the kids caught COVID early in the week. So our sophomore got his first varsity start and was able to really manage the game well, and he played good.
Coach, that's actually, I mean, that's good news, right? So kind of on a whim, you got to start a younger quarterback, and you still have such a great game. What does that tell you about the preparation and the focus of these guys to kind of have to pivot and really don't miss a beat?
Yeah, man, our quarterbacks spend a lot of time in meetings with myself and going over certain things so that they know what we like when we're playing certain defenses or when we're doing certain things on offense. They put a lot of preparation in, a lot of film work, and they're both of the kids are really close to 4.0 students, so they're students of the game also.
If I say the name Nick Fernandez, what is Corey Walsh's response?
Nick's a great kid, man. He comes from a great family. He's just figuring football out. He started playing in high school. His 9th grade year was his first year of football. And then his 10th grade year was that COVID season, and a couple teams canceled on us. So we really only got 2 games that year. So last year was really his first year of varsity football. So he's a dominant player, man. He does a little bit of everything for us. He's out at wide receiver, tight end. He'll get in the backfield at a wing back. He's at D-end sometimes, D-tackle sometimes. We're asking a lot of stuff from him. He actually kicks for us too.
Corey, we hear a lot of city section programs don't have a lot of numbers. They're lucky to have a varsity team out there, and if they can get a JV program out there, it's like a big deal. Tell us about the health of your program. What levels are you running, and just kind of the attraction to play football at San Pedro, because that seems to be a huge challenge for a lot of city section coaches.
It's tough. It is tough. Right now we're floating around 55 on varsity and something similar on JV, about 55 on JV too. And in this first week or two of school, there's been a couple kids on campus who maybe didn't get the update about summer practices or whatever happened, and they're trying to join the program as well. What I can say, what's tough in the city section is finding a lot of good coaches, and I'm really blessed to have a really unique blend of some old timers that have been in our program since the early 90s, as well as some younger guys that maybe I grew up with or maybe coached me when I was a little bit younger. And we just have a really good thing going on right now. I have a ton of really good help. In my first year as a head coach, I'm really learning all the responsibilities, and I'm trying to learn to be a good delegator. And I've got a lot of really good guys on my staff that I'm able to dish some things out to, and they're stepping up to the plate and handling those things really well. And I think the kids see that, and they're feeding off that energy, and that's an attraction to the program. I think that's something a lot of city schools are having trouble with. Not all of them. There's a ton of really good schools out there, but I'd say if there's 70 city section schools out there, at least half of them are really, really struggling. if not realistically a lot more than half, are really struggling to put together good staffs and give the kids what they need.
Hey, wait a minute. One of those old
I'm sorry,
guys.
it's their fault necessarily. Some of it has to do with resources and other things like that. I know a lot of people are trying their best.
Wait a minute. I want to get to these old men on your staff, because one of them's your dad, Mike, who was, the word legendary is overused, but in the city section, he had a tremendous run at San Pedro, and you played for him there. What's it like to have your dad, this coach who really gets it done, X's and O's wise? He was as good as anyone in the LA City section. What's it like to have him on the sideline helping you in your initial year?
It's a blessing. It's something to always fall back on. He built our program, man, and he's the rock in our program, and he's still helping call the offense. He's wearing way more hats than he should be wearing, playing a lot of roles in our program, and he's just a blessing to have, to always lean back on for advice, whether it's how to handle a disciplinary situation or whether it's what to do X's and O's wise, or he's full of great ideas. So I'm blessed.
Corey, talk about your team a little. We always, when we think about high school sports, we got to get names in there. So just, maybe a rundown of 3 or 4 guys on offense and maybe 3 or 4 guys on defense that you think are really worth watching this year.
Yeah, definitely. So one of our D linemen, Jerry Whitty, was the LA City heavyweight wrestling champ of the year last year. He's a 3-year varsity guy. He first team all city last year. I'd think that he has a decent shot to win city D lineman of the year, or maybe something even bigger. He's going to be a problem for a lot of people. He's a really strong kid, and he's a great kid, man. Then you got Nick Fernandez on the D line with him as well. Makani Kanapka, another 3-year starter at middle linebacker. Those guys are all 3-year starters. And then we got a 6'4" kid off the basketball team who had played with us last spring, and then it didn't work out grade-wise, so he wasn't able to play last year. But he's out at receiver and DB for us. He's a really good target for us offensively. And then we have 3-year starters on the O-line as well, Jeremiah Gasca, Aiden Acap, and Josiah Vargas. Those are some guys that we're going to lean on for Roman Sanchez, another 3-year starter back there running the football. So that's a pretty good breakdown of what we got going on. And to be honest, we got 2 or 3 more 3-year starters out there that are starting for us. So we got a good foundation. And after that, it's a lot of young kids who were not on the varsity last year, but we had a successful JV season last year. And a lot of those guys have stepped up for us and really filled some holes from graduations from last year.
Corey, we know that Birmingham's down a little bit. I'm sure they'll come on. They're the 2-time champs. They're the team that got you last year. But I got a sense as this could be the year of the Pirate. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Corey Walsh. He's going to do a great job there. I mean, he's got the roots, the genes, as they say.
Sounds like he's got a lot of experience, some key players in key positions.
Yeah.
And, Birmingham's in my neck of the woods, and they are a little down. And I think Jim Rose would tell you that, the head coach, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be a hard out. And so that'll be a really fun matchup down the line. I anticipate San Pedro and Birmingham might meet up again.
Got a schedule here of some of the games that are going to be played this week. These are some terrific games. I mean, we're allotting some time here because we have some games to discuss. Mater Dei, which won handily last week.
Never heard of them.
They've won 3 national titles in 4 years. At Bishop Gorman. Gorman's in the top 5 or 6 in the country. Mater Dei's great. Elijah Brown, the quarterback's 18-0 for Mater Dei. This is still a dangerous game for Mater Dei.
It is, and it almost might not matter, if they lose the game or whatever the case may be. When you're a high-level athlete, program, whatever the case may be, you want to seek out other elite competition, and that's what they're doing. So it's going to be a great game, win or loss.
It almost sounds like you're talking about St. John Bosco at Allen in Texas. Allen was 11-3 last year. They got a lot of D1 athletes. People are talking about St. John Bosco as being one of the best high school football teams they've ever seen work out. So I think Bosco's the favorite there, but again, on the road against Allen. And then there's Corona Centennial we talked about with the 85 that they put up this past week against Santiago. They'll get challenged. Cathedral Catholic is a great, great program. And they got a young man by the name of Matt Farino on the defense. Madden Farino. His sister Megan's the great pitcher, softball pitcher at UCLA. He's all over the field. So that's a great defense from Cathedral Catholic against Centennial's offense. They have two quarterbacks that are very good at Corona Centennial. That'll be a wonderful game.
I think if I had to guess, I actually think the St. John Bosco game is going to be a blowout. I'm just.
No, that's the one I agree that they're going to win.
I think the modern day Gorman game is going to be a little tougher. I think Bosco actually goes to Texas and gets them by probably about 3 touchdowns, maybe more. And then the Centennial game, that'll be a good game too. So those are the 2 better ones, I think.
Oh, what about Long Beach Paulie? They have a pretty interesting game against Sarah of Gardena. This is not going to be easy. Paulie put up a lot of points last week in their opening game. Their quarterback threw for 4 touchdowns, Darius Curry. Yep. He's very good, very accurate. Sarah's had success against Paulie in recent years.
Again, I think Sarah, having just lost to Orange Lutheran, their tools are probably a little sharper for this game. Long Beach Paulie, I think, did have a lopsided opening game. So, yeah, it's good to get a win under your belt, but really, when you're talking about that high-level division football, you want to be always prepared for, for the postseason and stuff like that. So I actually think Sarah's probably more ready for that game than Long Beach.
City key games. Granada Hills, they put a number on Arleta. They blew them out. It was ridiculous. But now they're going to get tested. Westchester's good. Westchester shut out Crenshaw last week. Granada Hills has to go there. They have the Stanleys, with DeJean and Daryl, the cousins. I knew about DeJean. Daryl came out of the woodwork against Arleta, so they're obviously pretty good.
Yeah, that's another team that just runs the ball heavy, and their coach is Bucky Brooks, kind of former NFL guy, knows what he's doing X's and O's wise. So he's going to give the ball to DeJean Stanley and now the cousin, Daryl Stanley, who's breaking onto the scene, and we'll see if there's a team out there that can stop him. I
love Corey Hall. He's a great player, returns kicks, can catch passes. They play him all over the field. He's a defensive back and receiver for Cleveland. They go to Grant. Grant's 1-0. Cleveland's 1-0. Cleveland was a little bit of a surprise. People are starting to think, hey, this Cavalier team's pretty good.
I think they are. I did not expect them to beat Kennedy last week, and they did. And you're right. Corey Hall did it all. Even led the defense in tackles. Had 14 tackles, along with receptions and punt returns and kick returns. So I think Cleveland's kind of the tougher team in that game, but they got to go on the road to Grant. Grant's a high-scoring team as well.
San Pedro, we just talked to Corey Walsh. He does have a tough game. Southgate's very good. They won their opener, but Southgate at San Pedro, you got to like the Pirates.
Yeah, give me San Pedro in that game, short and sweet.
Okay, next week we're going to be on a little later. You know why?
Really looking forward to it.
We normally on at 9, you all know that, but we have a game coming on, Orange and Yorba Linda. So that'll kick off at 7. You figure 2.5 hours. So Tarek and I will probably be on, about 9:30, 9:40. And Rich Estray and Bob Gibson will call that game. And then we'll follow it. And it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll have my sleeping bag and pillow ready to roll.
You know what the best thing is? Both Tarek and I have a little bit of a drive to get here. And the 5 freeway is not always the most fun coming up to do the show. We love doing the show. But now that the show's going to be a little later next week, we can leave from the valley later and miss the traffic. So that's great.
Knowing LA, I'm sure there'll be plenty of traffic at that time anyway.
What?
Yeah.
There's traffic after 7 on the 5?
Never heard of it.
That's hard to believe. Okay, quickly, what are you covering tomorrow?
I'll be at Oaks Christian, Sierra Canyon. Sierra Canyon unveiling their new they have this new stadium seating aspect to their field. It seats about 2,000 people. So that'll be a fun unveiling for that program. That's where I'll be tomorrow.
And both the teams there coming off disappointing opening games.
I wouldn't call Sierra Canyon's loss disappointing. I would call Oaks Christian's loss disappointing. But yeah, 2 teams looking for their first win. You're absolutely right.
I always try to be right, but you've corrected me. If it wasn't a disappointing loss, it wasn't a disappointing loss.
I would think you're only right on the show.
Wait a minute.
Off air,
they play Jay Sarah. They beat them twice last year, and you lose to them. It's got to be a disappointing loss.
Hey, new season, new players. Week 0, Ed Croson says it best. Week 0, you're always chasing ghosts. Even on your own team, you never know what you're going to have.
Well, we're going to act like a ghost and we're going to disappear. Okay, so for Tarek, Fattal, I'm Randy Rosenbloom. Our crew here at LA 36, Larry Zaval producing the program. We really appreciate that. We'll see you next week. And again, we don't know what time. Watch the football game, probably about 9:30 or 9:40. For Tarek, I'm Randy. We'll see you then. Enjoy the night, everybody. Take care.